Hey guys, I'm back out here working on section number 29, which is just fuselage side skins. But the first thing you have to do before you work on all that is add or work on all the longerons that are on either side of it. It is quite a bit of work on those, and that's largely what this video is going to be about. This video is a little bit delayed after I got really sick. So I got sick, I got better, and then I got really sick. And I also paused for about 4 or 5 days because I just got disgusted with myself due to a mistake I made, which I will talk to here in a bit. All right, here we go. So yeah, after taking a break, after getting so frustrated from screwing up, I took a week break, and then my wife and I flew back to Texas to visit some family, do some work, and I got sick while I was in Texas. I got this weird chest cold thing, and I'm coughing constantly, and I've got this like bubbling when I breathe. Not good. Doctors say I'll be fine. I just need to stop making so many videos. Okay, they didn't say that, but anyways, sorry the video was a little late. Just wasn't feeling up to it, but I'm getting back out here now. We'll see. We'll try to get more videos up if I can. So longeron bending is a little bit of a pain. You start with a straight piece of aluminum stock that is 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch on a side, and 0.125 thick, I think is what it was. 125, yeah. And, you know, good stuff, pretty sturdy, pretty stout. This is what most of, I believe, your longerons are made of. But you got to bend them. And due to the nature of tension and compression, when you bend it, it's going to tend to want to change shape entirely because you're stretching one side and you're trying to compress this rib, this side, right? And so that's what you got here. They've got this template, which this is great, Vans. Thank you for that. This 1046B piece of skin they send you, which I was trying to figure out when I was inventorying it. It was just this odd piece of skin with holes on one side. I was like, where the hell does this go? Nowhere. This is a template. That's all this is. So thanks for that. But the idea is that I'm going to use this to do, you know, the right mid fuselage longeron, which is what this is, and then just flip this over to do the left, so that you have, you know, this side is the right and this side is the left, and then this side is a different longeron, left and right. So clever, good job. When you're doing your bending, you want to get a good heavy duty. This is kind of an anvil style vise, but you want to get a good vise. This is actually a pipe vise, but a good vise that is strong and anchor it well, because you're going to be whacking this sucker with a mallet and just kind of muscling a bend to do what you got to do, which is what I've done here, and it matches this curve almost perfectly. The only thing you have to be careful of is when you do bend in like this, you're bending one side, it's gonna want to kind of curve downward. And so when you're bending one way, you have to turn it and make sure you haven't bent it into this funky other shape, and give it some pressure to fix it back. And to get a good 6-inch vise like this, you can do some of that anti-bending just with, you know, pressure. You don't need to use the hammer. The hammer is useful for tapping. You tension one side, or preload, I think is the word they use, and you just give it a good whack, and that will cause some of the preload to stick. And if you do that, you know, every inch, move it, whack, move it, whack, move it, whack, eventually you'll put a curve in it. And it's kind of a neat process. I can see why, though, that this process might be scary, because, you know, a longeron, that's a pretty important piece, and it's one of the few things that's not fabricated, really. I mean, other than them sending you, here's bar stock, you know, make longeron. So it's one of the things that you're actually going to fabricate. Don't be scared of it. It's not a big deal. You'll be okay. Long story short, though, follow the template, which this is fantastic, and you're going to come up with the right piece. I'm not exactly sure where on the plane this goes, but yeah, so cool. I just want to share. I thought this was pretty neat. So I got a lot more holes to drill. And then I got to fabricate the other Longeron. The other thing, that's the other thing I was going to point out, is they cut the template. The reason it's got this gap right here is because that is the exact size that the Longeron should be when you get it all bent and put into shape. They did that for you. Again, this template is a lifesaver. Thank you, Vans. That's fantastic. And so far, I guess I'm doing it right because everything lines up. So sweet. All right, back at it. Okay, so here I've got the two mid-fuselage Longerons done. I've got them drilled per the callouts, and I've got it clecoed onto, each of them clecoed onto my template. You can see they both run perfectly, but down here towards the end, you can see I've got a bend outward. This is the other bend I was talking about. When you're bending it one way, well, it impart a bend towards the flange that you're bending it. And you can see that this upper one has a slight bend upward, and I just need to put it in the vise and give it a little crank to pinch those together. It's just this one, the bottom one is perfectly flush. But I wanted to show you what I was talking about, that you can impart a different bend than you intended to while bending these aluminum angles. So anyways, other than that, this came out perfectly. I'm gonna bend that sucker down here shortly and then move on to the next part, which I think is the other set of Longerons here. Jeez. All right, so the footage you just watched was the last thing I did about 10 days ago, and I had to stop. I had to stop for two reasons. One, I was traveling back to Texas for my wife's company and got to visit some friends, etc. But that's the lesser reason. The actual reason has to do with these two big Longerons and this one. So the Longerons in this aircraft are part of the skeleton, right? They're one of the more important pieces of the airplane. You can't screw them up. Guess what? I screwed up. All of the Longerons throughout the plane are the same length, I thought. Basically, I made an assumption. It was a stupid assumption, but I made an assumption and it was wrong. And that assumption was that the left and right Longeron for this side of the aircraft were the same length. And so when I saw that you were supposed to cut the left Longeron to 94 inches or whatever it is, somewhere around there, I thought, oh, okay, and I cut them both to that length. And then I saw right below it that the longer one was supposed to be like 115 inches, I think. Let's see. 130. Okay, so 92 inches, 92 5 30 seconds, and 113 and a half. So I cut the longer Longeron. I thought, I just assumed that it gave you, one that was like 94 inches that you cut down to 92, and then one that was like way longer, and I figured, oh, I must have to make something out of this little extra bit that's left over somewhere else in the plane. No. One of the Longerons is that much longer. So here I am standing there after I had cut it, holding this bit of Longeron, seeing that it was supposed to be 113 inch. I'm like, I was so mad. I was mad for a number of reasons. One, it was just a stupid mistake. And I knew it was one I was going to have to pay for. So I had to order a new Longeron. The new Longeron costs a grand total of $17. Oh, well, that's not a bad mistake. It was $150 shipping. Just due to the nature of how big of a part it is, they can't ship it via postal service or something like that. It has to be shipped via the 3-day because they use FedEx, and FedEx is very particular on what they can ship and how. And it's a really long piece. I mean, it came in this, thick, heavy PVC with, caps and wrapped and whatnot. It was $150 to ship it. For a $17 part. So I was absolutely sick to my stomach when I did that because it was just such a colossally stupid mistake. So I stopped working on it for a little while, have regrouped, I've come back from Texas with a little bit of the ick again. I've got like a weird chest cold thing going on. I gotta stop traveling. I get sick every time I do it. But anyways, back out here, I am now going to unwrap all of this and begin the process of actually cutting it to the correct length, not 92 inches. And then I guess I have an extra Longeron. I'm gonna have an extra bit of angle aluminum that I'll use for something else down the road. So anyways, don't make that mistake. That's an expensive one. So many of these other pieces, if you screw up, they're small enough that if you do mangle them or something like that, they can ship it post office and you're just really just kind of out the part. These really long pieces though, nope, it gets expensive. A number of people have asked me about tools, specifically what tools they should use, if they should buy one kit versus another kit. I'll put it down below, and I put it in other videos before. I'll try to remember to put it in all my future videos as well, but I have a spreadsheet that I build on Google of all the various tools that I have used or purchased rather, and whether or not, how many you should need, whether I recommend them, when you should buy them, things like that. And a couple of them even have videos associated with that tool showing you how I use them. I'll post that down below. If you guys have any comments or questions around that, feel free to ask. I don't know everything about tooling by any means, and some people are in disagreement with me with regard to some tools like C-frame versus DDR2. But yeah, it's a useful thing to know that. Do you need to buy one of those all-in-one tool kits? Not really. I mean, I kind of piecemealed mine. The downside is I piecemealed mine from a company that's no longer around, so you'll kind of have to hunt and peck, but the gist is there. Anyways, that link's down below. If you guys have any suggestions or things you think I should add to that list, feel free to comment down below, and I really appreciate it. Thanks. Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing on this channel, if you'll jump over to my Patreon page for as little as $1 a month, you can help me keep making these videos. Just think of it as buying me a cup of coffee over the internet. Thank you. So someone asked me the other day, when are you going to buy your engine? Oh, I don't know. So right now I'm working on the fuselage. I probably could work on this fuselage for another 6 months to a year before I'll have it to a point where I'll need to get the next kit. That's the firewall forward kit. Excuse me. The firewall forward kit and the finishing kit and all that stuff are the two kits I still need. I'm not sure at what point I should be buying the engine. I've already started looking, but I'm kind of hoping a deal will come along. My choice is going to be between either an 0540 or an IO540, either new or used, either. Don't know which. I've already talked about it before in other videos about whether or not I could go with an alternate power plant. I have personally decided I'm not going to go with an alternate power plant. I'm going to go with what the plane was designed for. But, I keep hoping that an IO540 will fall out of the sky on me and that I'll be able to use that. But if that doesn't happen, a used opportunity doesn't present itself, I'm going to have to get a new one, which is probably the better idea anyways. And a new 540, not cheap. So going to have to kind of, save the money up for that and get it. But I'm just not there yet. I'm not ready. First of all, I'm not ready for it. People ask me when I'm going to buy my avionics. Same thing. It's not time. It's not time for the avionics. I still haven't finished the airframe. So I will buy all that stuff once I am to that point, but I'm just not there yet. And I'm very froggy. Okay, back at it. So Jonathan asked, why would I show my mistakes? No one's going to want to fly with me if there's all these mistakes. I don't have a lot of mistakes, one. Two, I feel it's very important to actually own up to your mistakes. Not so much so that I'm calling myself out, but more because I think so many builders are not keen to show their mistakes because they don't want to be embarrassed. Because, it's real easy to make a stupid mistake and go, oh, I'm an idiot. And then have somebody else, some armchair warrior go, oh, you're an idiot. And that's like, that's really not good for the psyche. The reason I do it though is because there are so many of you out there that want to build a plane and you're terrified. You're mortified that you're going to make a mistake. Don't be. My goal in showing my mistakes is to show you that mistakes are going to happen and they're recoverable. I have yet to make a mistake that means I can't keep going, right? You know, I can always, you can usually fix it, or at worst, you buy another part. Example with that Longeron. It was expensive, but you know, I was able to keep going. So no, I will always show my mistakes because, again, I think it's important that you, the viewer, realize that when you build your plane, you're gonna make mistakes. You're not perfect. I certainly am not. And so you're gonna goof. You're gonna have, I mean, just something simple. I can't remember where it was on my empennage, I think, where I just, the bucking bar slipped out of my hand and I dented the skin. You know, it's a mistake. Is it the end of the world? No. I've had a few people that made pretty egregious comments, you know, that I didn't really appreciate. I ended up deleting the comment because I just thought it was not helpful at all. About, you know, something I did. I used a blind rivet instead of a solid rivet somewhere, or something like that. And people are like, "Oh, you're gonna die, or you're gonna kill people and whatnot." And it's like, guys, that's one, that's not helpful. Two, it's not true. And three, again, my goal here is not to out myself, but rather to show the other builders out there that it's not the end of the world. Mistakes are gonna happen. So anyways, if you don't want to fly with me because I've shown my mistakes, awesome. I'm building this plane for me, not for you. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers your question. And no, I'm not worried about it. In fact, I think if you build your own plane, which you absolutely can do, you will be more confident in your plane than that Cessna or that Cirrus or whatever. And I'm not bagging on them, but because you've touched every single rivet, right? So that's the thing. I'll be extremely confident in this plane once I get it, you know, flying. But until then, I got to keep working on it because, boy, is it not ready to fly. So getting the left and right Longeron completely bent and in the correct shape, as I'm doing in the background, just doing the right one, the longer one, the one that shouldn't have been 94 inches, took a little over 2 hours, honestly. It's not something you want to rush. A lot of giving it a little bend, you know, tapping with the hammer or not. I found that if you just kind of give it a little shove, that often was enough to impart a bend, even though it doesn't feel like it. Like if you brace it and then give it a little shove and then move it down, give it a little shove, move it down, give it a little shove, then you hold the whole thing up. There's a subtle curve there. That, I think, is the better way to do it. The hammer works well too. The rubber mallet, don't use like a steel hammer, a rubber mallet to give it a whack to kind of set that curve. That works well too. But it just took a long time. It was a slow process, but eventually I got it curving along the curve of that template. Got the holes drilled. I was kind of drilling the holes as I was going to kind of make sure that I knew where the curve should be and I didn't go back and curve something that shouldn't have been. So either way, it came out very nicely. I'm very happy with it. Remember though, when you do these curves, you do have to turn the whole thing sideways and take the curve out that you're going to inadvertently impart just due to the nature of this piece. But yeah, I think it came out great. You can see right here in the background that what I've done is I've tried to line up the camera so you can see as I'm applying the curve, you can kind of see the curve go in. It kind of looks like I'm whacking real hard. I'm not. It's actually a very gentle tap. It's a heavy hammer. It doesn't take much. Like I said, mostly low. You can just kind of do it manhandling, if you will. All right, I'm on page 29-4, and I'm to a point where it looks like we're going to be fabricating some parts in order to do some skin, not folding but curving, which makes sense on the back of the plane. There's going to be some rounding to get this, you know, this part of the plane to match to that part of the plane. And looking in here, one of the things I have to fabricate is a roll construction angle out of some of this angle aluminum. The problem is I wasn't sure which one to use. It doesn't actually say which stock to use. First thing I did though is, you know, these are 36-inch parts. Yeah, 36-inch parts. And I went to look to see if I have two 36-inch pieces of angle aluminum, or at least right around there, because that would imply those are the pieces you're supposed to use. I don't. Instead, I have a bunch of exactly 72-inch pieces, and so I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to use one of those. Here's the other problem. The thicknesses are different. I have 3 of the thicker pieces, so these are both 3/4 by 3/4 by 0.125 thick, and I have one of them that is thinner, 0.75, so 0.075, sorry. So this is the thinner stuff, and I only have one of these. There's a good chance it's supposed to be this one. This thicker stuff is really structural. This thinner stuff, I'm not sure what else it would be used for, so it's probably this one, but it doesn't say. It just says fabricated, and there's no part on here or anything like that, so I have the advantage of an extra piece. Remember, I screwed up, and I have this extra piece of stock that I'm going to use. I'm just going to use it. I'll save this for something else. Maybe this is used somewhere else, maybe not. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to be using, but I know I can waste this. So I am going to just fabricate this out of this heavier, it's heavier duty and thicker, but it'll do the job. Since I think these are just throwaway. These are literally just used to put some clamps on and get the bend that you need. And drill some holes, and then they go in the trash. So I am going to make them out of these, or out of this one, and go from there. I also have to make a clamping block, which is out of hardwood, and it's 46 inches by 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. I'm gonna have to go to Home Depot or something like that and get a couple big pieces of oak, because I think their thickest oak is 3/4. So I'm gonna have to like do a glue up at home to make that clamping block. So that's the next thing I'm gonna do. So gonna work on this and then run over to the big box store to get the oak to work on the next thing. And yeah, go from there. Yeah, Vance 29-4. It doesn't actually say which stock I'm supposed to be using, so just so you know. All right, and with that, guys, I'm gonna call it. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. Stick around in the next video, which should be coming pretty soon. I'm gonna be taking this back piece off of the empennage and mounting it to those ribs so that I can actually begin the curving of the skin. That's really cool. If you like what I'm doing on this channel, if you'll click the like and subscribe button down there, it really helps my rankings. If you want to get notifications when I release a new video, click the bell icon. And I really appreciate everybody. Thank you so very much. See you in the next video.